The alarm woke Captain Hyunwoo from his sleep. Red lights flashed across his quarters. He jumped from his bed and grabbed his uniform. "Captain, to the bridge. Emergency situation." The voice on the speaker was tense. Hyunwoo ran through the corridors of the Earth Defense Force battleship Dauntless. Crew members moved quickly, their faces showing fear. Something was very wrong. When he reached the bridge, Commander Park stood by the main screen. Her face was pale. "They're here," she said simply. "On." The screen, strange ships appeared. They were unlike anything humans had built. Their hulls shimmered with a purple light. They moved in perfect formation. "The Varunians," Hyunwoo whispered. Humans had heard about the Varunians for years. They were an alien empire that ruled many star systems. Until now, they had ignored Earth and its few colony worlds. That had suddenly changed. "They attacked New Sol Colony without warning," Commander Park said. "They've already destroyed our outer defenses." Hyunwoo took his position at the tactical station. "What are our orders?" "Defend the colony at all costs. 2 more ships are on their way. We need to hold until they arrive." Hyunwoo studied the alien ships. They were arranged in a pattern he recognized from military history. "They're using a pincer movement, standard tactics. We can counter this." He sent orders to the defense platforms around New Sol. The human ships moved into formation. Hyunwoo felt confident. He had studied military strategy for years. He knew how to respond to this kind of attack. "Firing solution ready," he announced. "All ships in position. Defense platforms locked on target." "Fire when ready, Captain," Commander Park ordered. Hyunwoo pressed the command button. Earth ships fired their weapons. Bright energy beams shot toward the alien vessels. But something strange happened. Just before the beams reached them, the Yatoi alien ships changed position. They moved in perfect unison, as if they knew exactly where the shots would go. They evaded. How? Hyunwoo typed frantically at his console, recalculating. A voice suddenly came through on all channels. It spoke perfect English with a strange, musical quality. "How predictable your species is," the voice said. "Your tactical approach has not changed in 500 years. On the screen, a face appeared. It had blue skin and large black eyes. Its mouth was small but curved in what was clearly a smile. "I am Commander Thrax of the Varunian Empire. Your worlds now belong to us. Your resistance is amusing." Hyunwoo felt his face grow hot with anger. "We haven't even begun to fight," Thrax laughed. "Then please continue. It's so rare to find entertainment during conquest." The transmission ended. Hyunwoo turned to Commander Park. "New approach. Formation Delta 7. She nodded. Delta 7 was a complex battle formation developed only 3 years ago. It couldn't be in any alien database. The Earth ships moved into the new pattern. Defense platforms adjusted their targeting. "Fire!" Hyunwoo ordered. Again, the energy beams shot out. Again, the alien ships moved in perfect unison, avoiding every shot. "Impossible," Hyunwoo whispered. The Varunian ships began firing. Their weapons cut through Earth's defenses like they weren't there. 2 defense platforms exploded. One of the human ships, the Challenger, reported critical damage. "They're predicting everything we do," Commander Park said, her voice shaking. "How?" Thrax's voice returned. "Your Delta 7 formation. Developed by Admiral Yun 3 years ago, based on ancient naval tactics from your Second World War. Did you think we wouldn't study your military history?" Hyunwoo tried every formation and tactic he knew. Nothing worked. The aliens predicted every move. Within 3 hours, the battle was over. New Sol Colony fell to the Varunians. The Dauntless was one of the few ships that escaped. Over the next 2 weeks, 2 more human colonies fell. Each time, the story was the same. The aliens knew every human tactic and could counter them perfectly. They broadcast each victory across space, showing the galaxy how easily they defeated the humans. Earth's military leaders gathered at Central Command on Earth. The room was filled with grim faces. Hyunwoo sat with other captains who had survived the battles. Admiral Song stood at the front of the room. "We've lost 3 colonies in 2 weeks. The Varunians have better technology and somehow know all our tactics. If we don't find a solution, Earth will be next. Colonel Jin Ho, a stern man with gray hair, spoke up. We need more ships, more weapons. We'll overwhelm them with numbers. They'll just destroy more of us, Hyunwoo said. Their prediction capability is unlike anything I've seen. They know what we'll do before we do it. A quiet voice came from the back of the room. They're using predictive algorithms. All heads turned. A woman in a sergeant's uniform stood there. She was small, with short black hair and calm eyes. Sergeant, identify yourself, Admiral Song demanded. Sergeant Do-yeon, Special Forces Division, she replied. Her voice was soft but clear. Colonel Jin Ho frowned. This is a meeting for command staff. How did you get in here? I let her in, Hyunwoo said, standing. I read her file. She has an unusual background that might help us. Admiral Song looked skeptical but nodded. Go ahead, Sergeant. Do-yeon walked to the front of the room. The Varunians aren't magic. They're using advanced AI to predict our movements based on our known tactics and military history. They expect us to fight like a modern military force. She brought up images on the main screen showing the alien ships in formation. Look at how they move. Perfect, precise, mathematical. They rely on patterns and prediction. She paused. They've never faced someone who doesn't fight that way. Colonel Jinho laughed sharply. And what do you suggest? That we forget everything we know about military strategy? Do-yeon nodded. Yes, exactly that. The room filled with voices of protest. Admiral Song raised his hand for silence. Explain. Yourself, Sergeant. I was raised by my grandfather in the mountains outside Busan, Do-yeon said. He fought as a guerrilla fighter in his youth. He taught me that when you face a stronger enemy, you don't match their strength. You change the rules of the fight. Hyunwoo leaned forward. What are you suggesting? The Varunians laugh at our tactics because they can predict them. So let's use methods they can't predict. Do-yeon's eyes shone with intensity. No formations, no standard responses. Fighting that looks random to their algorithms. Chaos is not a military strategy, Colonel Jinho said. It's not chaos, Do-yeon replied. It's asymmetric warfare. Humans have used it for thousands of years when facing stronger enemies. Admiral Song studied her. You're suggesting we fight like guerrillas? Against a spacefaring empire? Yes, Do-yeon said simply. One soldier fighting unpredictably is worth more than 1,000 fighting by the book against an enemy who's read the book. The room fell silent. Hyunwoo looked at her with growing respect. The idea was crazy, but they were losing badly. Maybe crazy was exactly what they needed. Admiral Song finally spoke. Captain Hyunwoo, you vouched for her. What do you think? Hyunwoo stood. I watched the Varunians predict and counter every standard tactic we have. If they're using predictive algorithms, then we need something unpredictable. I say we hear her plan. All eyes turned to Sergeant Do-yeon. The fate of humanity might depend on what she said next. All eyes in the command room focused on Sergeant Do-yeon. The small woman stood straight, her face calm despite the attention. Tell us about this plan of yours, Admiral Song said. Do-yeon walked to the center of the room. I need to tell you about my grandfather first. Colonel Jinho sighed loudly. We don't have time for stories. This is important, Captain Hyunwoo said. Let her speak. Do-yeon nodded her thanks to him. My grandfather, Taiwan, was a guerrilla fighter long ago. When I was young, he took me to live in the mountains after my parents died. There he taught me everything he knew. She brought up a map on the main screen. It showed a mountain region in Korea. He taught me that the strongest enemy can be defeated if they can't find you or predict what you'll do next. He showed me how to move without patterns, how to think in ways that can't be calculated. Do-yeon looked around the room. The Varunians rely on prediction. They study our history, our tactics, our patterns. But they've never faced a fighter who doesn't follow patterns. Admiral Song frowned. Are you suggesting one person can make a difference against their fleet? One person, then 10, then hundreds, Do-yeon replied. Not fighting as an army, but as individuals with the same goal. No central command to target, no formations to predict, Colonel Jinho stood up. This is ridiculous. We are a modern military force, not mountain rebels. And we're losing, Captain Hyunwoo said quietly. The room fell silent again. Duyan continued. I need a small ship, a fast one, and I need volunteers who are willing to learn a new way of fighting. What exactly will you do? Admiral Song asked. I'll infiltrate Varunian-controlled space. I'll reach one of our fallen colonies. Then I'll teach the humans there how to resist in ways the Varunians can't predict. Colonel Jinho laughed. You'll be killed before you get close. No, Doyon said with quiet confidence. I won't, because they'll be looking for military ships following military protocols. I won't be doing either. Admiral Song looked at the other officers. Many seemed doubtful, but a few looked interested. Humanity was running out of options. Even if I approve this, the Admiral said, where would you go? What would you do first? Duyan pointed to a point on the galactic map. Nexus 7. It was our mining colony. The Varunians took it first because of its resources. They'll have human workers there. That's where I'll start. The meeting continued for hours. Duyan answered questions about her plan. Some officers thought it was crazy. Others saw hope in it. In the end, Admiral Song made his decision. Captain Hyunwoo, you supported bringing Sergeant Doyan here. Are you willing to support her mission too? Hyunwoo stood. Yes, sir. I volunteer, to help however I can. Good. You'll coordinate from here, provide intelligence and whatever resources we can spare. The Admiral turned to Doyan. You have one ship, Sergeant. The scout vessel Shadow. It's small but fast. You can take 5 volunteers with you. Colonel Jinho slammed his fist on the table. This is a waste of resources. We should be building more battleships, not sending a sergeant on a suicide mission. Those battleships would just be destroyed like the others, Hyunwoo said. We need to try something different. Admiral Song ended the argument. My decision is final. Sergeant Doyan, you have 3 days to prepare. Choose your team wisely. 3 days passed quickly. Doyan selected her team carefully. She chose Lieutenant Kite, a communications expert. Medical Officer Han was next, then Security Officer Eunji. Engineers Dong Min and Suho completed the team. All of them were skilled but also open-minded. They would need to forget their training and learn a new way of fighting. On the morning of their departure, Captain Hyunwoo met them at the launch bay. The Shadow was being prepared for their journey. Are you sure about this? He asked Doyan privately. Yes, she said. This is the only way. Colonel Jinho has convinced half the command that you're going to get yourself killed for nothing. Doyan smiled slightly. Then they'll be surprised when we succeed. Hyunwoo handed her a small device. This is a secure communicator. It will let you contact me directly. I'll do what I can from here to help you. Thank you, Captain, for believing in me. As Doyan turned to leave, Hyunwoo asked one more question. Your grandfather? Is he still alive? No, Doyan said softly. He died 5 years ago. His last words to me were that someday, what he taught me would matter more than all the fancy technology in the world. I think that day has come, Hyunwoo said. The small team boarded the Shadow. The ship was little more than an engine with living quarters attached. It was designed for speed and stealth, not combat. That suited Doyan's plan perfectly. As they prepared for launch, Lieutenant Kite looked nervous. Sergeant, how exactly are we going to get past the Varunian patrols? We're not going to avoid them, Doyan explained. We're going to hide in plain sight. She showed them her plan. The route to Nexus 7 passed through busy trade lanes. Unlike military vessels that avoided these crowded areas, they would fly directly through them. The Varunians are looking for military ships moving like military ships, she explained. We'll move like a small trading vessel. Nothing special, nothing worth noticing. Engineer Suho frowned. But our engine signature will be masked. Doyan finished. Your first job is to make us look like an old cargo hauler on the scans. The team worked quickly to modify the ship. They changed the engine output pattern. They added irregular heat signatures that would make the ship look like an aging commercial vessel. As they prepared to leave Earth orbit, a transmission came through. It was Colonel Jin Ho. Sergeant Do-yeon, I want to make my position clear. I think this mission is a waste of resources we can't afford to lose. When you fail, I will make sure everyone knows I oppose this foolishness. Do-yeon's face remained calm. I understand, Colonel. Is there anything else? Jin-ho seemed surprised by her calm response. No, that's all. The transmission ended. Captain Hyunwoo's face appeared next. Don't let him bother you. Just focus. On your mission. I will, Do-yeon promised. We'll contact you when we reach Nexus 7. The shadow departed Earth, moving slowly at first, then accelerating once clear of the defense perimeter. Do-yeon gathered her small team. From now on, forget everything you learned in military training. Forget formations, protocols, and standard procedures. Those will get us killed. She looked at each team member. We need to think differently, act differently, become unpredictable. How do we do that? Medical Officer Han asked. I'll teach you what my grandfather taught me, Do-yeon said. First lesson, the strongest enemy is also the most blind. They only see what they expect to see. As the shadow headed toward Varunian space, Do-yeon began training her team. They practiced moving through the ship without patterns. They learned to communicate without standard military phrases. They prepared for a kind of warfare that hadn't been used in space before. Ahead of them lay Varunian territory and Nexus 7. Behind them was Earth, waiting to see if one small team led by a single soldier could find a way to defeat an enemy that had laughed at humanity's best military tactics. The journey to Nexus 7 took 12 days. The shadow moved carefully through space, staying with groups of trading ships whenever possible. Twice they encountered Varunian patrol ships. Both times the aliens scanned them and moved on. The disguise was working. We're approaching Nexus 7, Lieutenant Kaite announced on the 12th day. I'm picking up heavy Varunian presence. Do-yeon looked at the scanner. 5 large Varunian warships orbited the mining colony. Dozens of smaller ships moved between the planet and the warships. It was a busy operation. Perfect, Do-yeon said. Engineer. Suho looked at her in surprise. Perfect? There are 5 warships up there. Yes, and they're busy. Busy people don't notice small things that don't seem important. Do-yeon turned to the team. Everyone remember your roles? They nodded. The plan was simple but required perfect timing. Kite, send the trading codes I gave you. The lieutenant transmitted the fake cargo authorization codes Do-yeon had created. They identified the shadow as a supply ship bringing food to the mining colony. Now we wait, Do-yeon said. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then a message came through. It was in the Varunian language, but their computer translated it. Supply ship identified as Earth vessel, Trader's Luck. Proceed to landing pad 7 for inspection. Do-yeon smiled. They're using our own shipping records, just as I thought. What if they search the ship? Medical Officer Han asked. They will search the ship, Do-yeon said, and they won't find us. The shadow followed the assigned path down to the planet's surface. As they descended, they could see the mining operation. It was massive. Huge machines dug into the ground. Lines of human workers moved between buildings. They're using our people as slaves, Security Officer Yoonji said, her voice angry. Not for long, Do-yeon promised. They landed on Pad 7. Through the view screen, they could see Varunian soldiers approaching. They were tall, blue-skinned aliens carrying energy weapons. Everyone to the hiding places, Do-yeon ordered. Remember, not a sound. The team quickly moved to special compartments Engineer Suho had built beneath the floor. They were shielded against scans and barely big enough for a person to fit inside. Do-yeon was the last to hide. The Varunians entered the ship. They spoke in their own language as they searched every room. One of them passed directly over Do-yeon's hiding place. She could hear its breathing. After 20 minutes, the aliens left. A message came through the ship's system. Supply ship cleared. Unload cargo at Sector 12. Departure scheduled for 600 tomorrow. The team emerged from their hiding places. They didn't find anything suspicious, Kite said, sounding surprised. They weren't looking carefully, Doyon explained. They see what they expect to see. Now comes the hard part. That night, while the mining colony slept, Doyon and her team slipped out of the ship. They wore the simple clothes of mine workers. Engineer Dongmin stayed behind to guard the ship. The others followed Doyon into the worker housing area. How do we find people we can trust? Yunji whispered. Look for the ones the guards watch most closely, Doyon said. They moved silently, through the dark buildings. Occasionally, Varunian patrols passed by. Each time the team froze in shadows until they passed. In the largest building, they found what Doyon was looking for. A human man was speaking quietly to a group of workers. When he saw Doyon and her team, he stopped talking immediately. We're from Earth, Doyon said softly. We've come to help. The man looked suspicious. The Varunians control everything. No ships get in without their permission. Doyon smiled. Exactly. We came in with their permission. She explained their mission. The man's name was Sung Ho. He had been a manager at the mine before the invasion. Now he was secretly organizing the workers. We've tried to resist, Sung Ho said, but their technology is too advanced. They know everything we do before we do it. That's because you're still thinking like Earth people, Doyon said. I'm going to teach you to think differently. Over the next week, Doyon began training. Small groups of workers. She taught them her grandfather's ways. No patterns, no predictability. Each person acting alone but with the same goal. The Varunians rely on algorithms to predict what we will do, she explained to one group. But algorithms need patterns. If we don't follow patterns, their predictions fail. Lieutenant Kaite set up a communications network using the mine's own systems. Security Officer Yunji taught workers how to create simple weapons from mining tools. Medical Officer Han trained people to treat injuries without the Varunians knowing. On the 8th day, they made their first move. At exactly the same time, small acts of sabotage happened across the mine. A power relay failed. A conveyor belt broke. A storage tank leaked. None of the problems was major, but all of them happened at once. Doyon watched from hiding as Varunian supervisors rushed around trying to fix everything. Now they'll examine the systems, she said to Sung Ho. They'll look for connections between the failures. But there are no connections, Sung Ho said. Different people did each one. Exactly. Their algorithms will try to find a pattern and fail. The next day, more things went wrong at the mine. This time, they happened at random times throughout the day. Some equipment worked too slowly. Some worked too quickly. Production dropped. In orbit above Nexus 7, Commander Thrax was not happy. He summoned his chief security officer. What is happening at the mine? Thrax demanded. Equipment failures, Commander. The humans call it bad luck. Thrax did not believe in luck. Run a full analysis. Find the pattern. For 3 days, the Varunians collected data. They increased security. They watched the humans closely. But the problems continued. Sometimes big, sometimes small. Sometimes in one area, sometimes in another. There was no pattern. Doyon received a secure message from Captain Hyunwoo on Earth. The Varunians are confused, he told her. Their communications show they're trying to understand what's happening on Nexus 7. It's working, Doyon. This is just the beginning, she replied. Now we spread to other colonies. Using the shadow, Lieutenant Kite and Engineer Suho slipped away from Nexus 7. They carried Doyon's methods to the next colony. Security Officer Yunji took a group of trained workers to another part of Nexus 7's massive mine. Doyon herself stayed with the main group. She continued training more workers. Each new person learned to act independently but with the same goal: disrupt the Varunian operation without being predictable. Commander Thrax became increasingly frustrated. He called in their best tactical analyst, an alien named Vazik, who specialized in understanding enemy behaviors. The humans are resisting, Thrax said, but not in any way we've seen before. Find out what they're doing. Vazik studied the reports from Nexus 7. It's strange, Commander. There's no organization I can detect, no leadership structure. It's as if each human is acting alone. That's impossible, Thrax said. Humans are hierarchical. They follow leaders and orders. Not these humans, Vezik said. They've changed their behavior. Thrax didn't like what he was hearing. Bring in our best predictive AI. I want to know what they'll do next. But the AI could not predict actions that followed no pattern. For the first time, the Varunians faced an enemy they couldn't understand. On Earth, Captain Hyunwoo reported the developments to Admiral Song. It's working better than we hoped. The resistance is spreading across Nexus 7. Production is down by 30%. Colonel Jinho still wasn't convinced. This is just a minor irritation to them, not a real victory. It's only the beginning, Hyunwoo said. Doyon's methods are spreading to other colonies now, and the Varunians have no way to stop what they can't predict. As if to prove his point, a message came in. The resistance had spread to a second colony, then a third. A single human soldier's idea was becoming humanity's best hope against an enemy that had once laughed at their tactics. 3 months passed. The resistance spread from Nexus 7 to 5 other colonies. Production and Varunian mining operations dropped by 60%. Supply lines were disrupted. Equipment broke down constantly. The Varunians could not stop what was happening. On Earth, Captain Hyunwoo stood before the military command. He displayed the latest reports from the colonies. Sergeant Doyon's strategy is working, he said. The Varunians can't predict or stop the resistance because there's no pattern to it. Admiral Song nodded. The Varunians have pulled back 2 of their attack fleets to deal with the colony problems. It's buying us time to rebuild our defenses. Colonel Jinho still looked doubtful. But they're still advancing in other sectors. We need a real military victory, not just delays. That's why we need to expand Doyon's strategy, Hyunwoo said. Not just in the colonies, but in our fleet tactics too. What do you mean? Admiral Song asked. We've been fighting like a traditional military force. That's why they beat us so easily. Hyunwoo brought up a new display. I propose we create small independent ship teams. Each will operate on Doyon's principles. No patterns, no central command structure that can be targeted. Colonel Jinho stood up. This is absurd. You want to break up our fleet? Fight without coordination? Not without coordination, Hyunwoo explained. With a different kind of coordination. They'll share a common goal, but make independent decisions on how to achieve it. After much debate, Admiral Song approved the plan. Earth's remaining ships were reorganized into small groups. Each captain received training based on Doyon's methods. Meanwhile, on Nexus 7, Doyon was planning something bigger. She had gathered trusted leaders from different resistance groups. The Varunians are learning, she told them. They're starting to adapt to our methods. We need to evolve too. Sung Ho, who had become her most trusted ally, asked, What's the next step? We need to show every human in Varunian space how to resist, Doyon said. Not just workers in the mines, but everyone. Lieutenant Kaite, who had returned from spreading the resistance to other colonies, had an idea. We could use the Varunians' own communication network. They broadcast their messages to all colonies. Doyon smiled. Exactly. We're going to send a message that every human will hear. For 2 weeks they prepared. Security Officer Yoonji created a diversion plan. Engineer Suho worked on the technical aspects of hijacking the Varunian broadcast system. Medical Officer Han prepared for potential casualties. The day of the operation arrived. Yoonji's team created 30 small problems across the mine, drawing Varunian security away from the main communication center. Suho and Kite slipped into the center and connected their equipment. We're ready, Kite told Doyon through their secure channel. You'll have 2 minutes before they detect us. Doyon stood before the camera. When Kite gave the signal, she began speaking. To all humans under Varunian control, this is Sergeant Doyon. I am one soldier from Earth, and I'm speaking to you from inside the Varunian network. She paused, knowing her next words were important. The Varunians beat our military because they could predict what we would do. Their technology lets them analyze patterns. But they cannot predict what has no pattern. They cannot control what they cannot understand. Doyon held up a simple mining tool. This is not a weapon. But it became one when used in a way they didn't expect. You don't need military training. You don't need advanced technology. You need to become unpredictable. She explained the basic principles of her strategy. Act individually. Never establish patterns. Create small disruptions that add up to big problems. You are not alone, she finished. We are all around you. Not as an army, but as individuals with the same goal. Freedom. The transmission cut off as Varunian security forces broke into the communication center. But it was too late. Every human in Varunian space had heard the message. In his command ship, Commander Thrax watched the transmission with growing anger. Find her. Find this Sergeant Doyon. His tactical officer looked nervous. We're trying, Commander. But she doesn't stay in one place. She doesn't follow any pattern we can track. Thrax slammed his fist down. Bring me our most advanced tactical AI. I want every resource focused on predicting what these humans will do next. The Varunians brought in their best technology. Their most advanced AI examined all data from the colonies. It ran billions of simulations trying to find patterns in the human resistance. The AI's conclusion shocked them. Human actions follow no discernible pattern. Prediction accuracy is only 12%. This is within random chance range. Thrax couldn't believe it. Impossible. All sentient behavior follows patterns. Not this behavior, the AI responded. It appears intentionally designed to avoid pattern recognition. As Thrax struggled with this problem, another issue arose. Earth's fleet had begun using new tactics. Small groups of ships appeared suddenly, attacked Varunian targets, and disappeared before they could respond. Like the resistance on the colonies, there was no pattern to predict. On Earth, Colonel Jinho prepared to lead a mission to one of the outer colonies. Despite his doubts about Doyon's methods, Admiral Song had ordered him to coordinate with the resistance groups there. This goes against all military doctrine, Jinho complained to Captain Hyunwoo before leaving. That's exactly why it's working, Hyunwoo replied. See for yourself. Jinho's ship departed Earth with a small escort. They used the new tactics, moving unpredictably through space. But near the colony, they encountered a large Varunian patrol. Despite their efforts, Jinho's ship was damaged and he was captured. The Varunians brought Colonel Jinho before Commander Thrax himself. You are a high-ranking Earth officer, Thrax said. You will tell us how to predict this new human strategy. Jinho stood tall. I don't know. I opposed it from the beginning. Thrax was surprised. You opposed your own military strategy? It's not a military strategy, Jinho said. It's the idea of one soldier who threw away the rulebook. One soldier? Thrax asked. This Sergeant Doyon? Jinho didn't answer, but Thrax could see the truth in his reaction. Take him to the holding cells, Thrax ordered. Then find me everything about this Sergeant Doyon. As Jinho was led away, he passed human workers in the corridors. To his surprise, they moved with purpose, but without obvious patterns. They glanced at him with knowing looks. The resistance was here too, right under the Varunians' noses. For the first time, Jinho began to understand what Doyon had created. It wasn't chaos or lack of strategy. It was a completely different kind of warfare. One where each individual was both leader and follower, both strategist and soldier. Back on Nexus 7, Doyon received word of Jinho's capture. We should try to rescue him, Sung-Ho suggested. No, Doyon said. That's exactly what they expect us to do. We'll do something different. Instead of mounting a rescue mission, Doyon sent a message directly to Commander Thrax. You have captured Colonel Jinho. He knows nothing of value to you, but if you watch him closely, you might learn something valuable about humanity. Thrax was puzzled by this message. What game was this human sergeant playing? He ordered increased surveillance on Jinho, looking for some secret communication or escape plan. But Jinho did nothing unusual. He simply observed everything around him, especially how the resistance operated right in front of the Varunians without them recognizing it. The war had entered a new phase. A single human soldier had changed the rules of engagement. And for the first time, the aliens who had laughed at human tactics were the ones struggling to understand what was happening. 6 months had passed since Doyon first arrived on Nexus 7. The war had changed completely. What began as small acts of resistance had grown into a movement that spread across every human colony under Varunian control. In his flagship, Commander, Thrax looked at the latest reports. Production was down by 80%. His ships couldn't maintain proper patrols because they never knew where problems would appear next. The Varunian High Command was demanding answers. "Commander," his aide said, "we've lost contact with the processing facility on Colony 12. Thrax closed his eyes briefly. Another failure. Another unpredictable human action. "And there's a message for you," the aide added. "From the human. Sergeant Doyon." Thrax sat up straight. "Put it through." Doyon's face appeared on the screen. She looked calm, confident. "Commander Thrax," she said, "I'm reaching out to offer you something." "Surrender?" Thrax asked with a hint of sarcasm. "A conversation," Doyon replied. "I think it's time we understood each other." Thrax was surprised. "Why would I agree to this?" "Because fighting a war you don't understand is costly, and because I will come alone, unarmed, to a location of your choosing." Thrax considered this. It could be a trap, but something told him it wasn't. This human had never acted as expected. "Very well," he said finally. "Tomorrow, the Central Plaza on Nexus 7. "I'll be there," Doyon said. The transmission ended. Captain Hyun-woo contacted Doyon immediately when he heard of her plan. "This is too dangerous," he warned. "Thrax could simply capture or kill you." "He won't," Doyon said confidently. "He's curious. He wants to understand how one human changed everything." "Admiral Song and the command are concerned," Hyun-woo told her. "They want you to demand full Varunian withdrawal from our colonies." Doyon smiled. "That's not how this works, Captain. I'm not going to make demands. I'm going to help Thrax understand why he's already lost." The next day, Doyon walked alone into the Central Plaza of Nexus 7. Varunian soldiers surrounded the area. Commander Thrax waited in the center, flanked by 2 guards. "I'm surprised you came," Thrax said as she approached. "I always do the unexpected," Doyon replied. "That's the point." Thrax dismissed his guards, who stepped back but remained watchful. "You've caused us considerable problems, Sergeant," Thrax said. "One human soldier shouldn't be able to do that." "It wasn't just me," Doyon said. "I just showed people a different way to think." "That's what I want to understand," Thrax said. "How did you know our weakness?" Doyon looked around the plaza. Human workers moved about, watching them. Varunian soldiers stood at attention, following their protocols. "Look at your soldiers," she said. "They stand at precise intervals. They follow exact procedures. Even now, they're checking their surroundings, at regular intervals." Thrax watched and saw she was right. "Now look at the humans," Doyon continued. "Each moves differently. Some quick, some slow, no pattern. Your greatest strength is your technology and your order, but that makes you predictable." "And your unpredictability is your strength?" Thrax asked. "One of them," Doyon said. "The other is our adaptability. For thousands of years, humans fought each other. We learned to adapt when we couldn't match our enemy's strength." As they talked, Colonel Jin Ho was brought to the plaza. He had been released from his cell for this meeting. He stood to the side, listening carefully. "Your technology gives you power," Doyon continued, "but it also limits you. Your predictive algorithms need patterns to work. When there are no patterns, your advantage disappears." Thrax considered her words. "So the famous human military discipline that we studied was actually your weakness?" "Against an enemy like you, yes," Doyon said. "You understood our conventional tactics better than we did, so we had to change." "Based on the teachings of your grandfather," Thrax said. "Our intelligence learned about him." Doyon nodded. "He taught me that the strongest enemy can be defeated if they can't predict you. He fought against forces with better weapons and more men. But he survived because he never did what they expected." "One old human's teaching," Thrax said, shaking his head in disbelief. "And it changed the course of an interstellar war." "Sometimes, the oldest wisdom is the most valuable," Doyan said. Your civilization forgot that because you relied so much on technology. Thrax was silent for a long moment. Why are you telling me all this? You're revealing your strategy. Because even knowing it won't help you counter it, Doyan said simply. You can't predict the unpredictable. You can't control what you don't understand. And your entire civilization is built on prediction and control. Around the plaza, the human workers had stopped moving. They watched the conversation between the human sergeant and the alien commander. Even the Varunian soldiers seemed interested. Finally, Thrax spoke. What do you propose, Sergeant Doyan? Withdrawal, she said. Return to your space. Leave the human worlds. And if we don't, then we continue to resist. Not as an army you can defeat, but as individuals you can never predict or control. Your operations will continue to fail. Your resources will be wasted. All because you chose to fight an enemy you didn't understand. Colonel Jin-Ho stepped forward. Commander Thrax, I once opposed Sergeant Doyan's methods. I believed in traditional military approach. But after seeing how her strategy works, I can tell you this. You cannot win this war. Thrax looked at Jin-Ho with surprise. You were a captive. Why would I trust your assessment? Because I've been watching your operations from the inside, Jin-Ho replied. Every day the resistance grows stronger. Your soldiers grow more frustrated. It will only get worse. 3 days later, Commander Thrax sent a message to the Varunian High Command. He recommended immediate withdrawal from human space. The cost of continuing the war was too high, the chance of victory too low. To everyone's surprise, the High Command agreed. The Varunians had never encountered a species they couldn't predict and control. They needed time to reconsider their approach to humanity. As Varunian ships began leaving Nexus 7, Captain Hyunwoo arrived to bring Doyan and her team home. Colonel Jin-Ho was with him. You did the impossible, Hyunwoo told her. You defeated an enemy that laughed at our best tactics. We all did it together, Doyan said. Every human who learned to act unpredictably. Colonel Jin-Ho approached her. I was wrong about you, Sergeant. Your grandfather's teachings were more valuable than all our modern military doctrine. Sometimes the oldest wisdom is the most important, Doyan said. We just had to remember it. 6 weeks later, at Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Song addressed the military command. Doyan, Hyunwoo, and Jin-Ho sat in the front row. Based on our experience in this conflict, we are establishing a new training program, the Admiral announced. The Doyan Doctrine will be taught to all our forces. After the meeting, Doyan requested leave. There was somewhere she needed to go. 2 days later, she climbed the familiar path up the mountain to her grandfather's old home. It was quiet there, peaceful. She carried a small box with her. Inside the simple house, she placed the box on the table her grandfather had made himself. She opened it to reveal a piece of Varunian technology, a small communication device. You were right, grandfather, she said softly. What you taught me mattered more than all the fancy technology in the world. Doyan stepped outside and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Varunians were reconsidering everything they thought they knew about humans. All because one old man had taught his granddaughter how to be unpredictable. Sometimes the simplest lessons were the most powerful, and sometimes a single soldier could change the course of a war.